What is up, my friends? Welcome to another Global Economic Report. Today we're going to talk about a little bit about the G20, and we're going to talk about the US-China trade tariffs and situation currently going on there. I waited now a couple days to see what would really surface after the G20, what would happen with the stock market, what would happen with the Chinese stock market, the Chinese yuan, and just to see what would happen with everything, and that's what we're going to break down in this video. So let's go ahead and dive right in. First of all, if you weren't aware, on November 30th in Argentina, there was the G20 meeting. Now, these used to be like super secretive and super private, and they would, oh, no, right? But now it's like wide open, and effectively it's like I wouldn't say the biggest 20 countries, but it's 20 countries inside of this sort of coalition union thing going on. They're all UN nations, of course, that meet on a regular basis to talk about global things going on. And so there was a couple side meetings that happened. There was one between Trump and Putin and one between Trump and China's president. Some interesting things have happened because of this, but let's start in the beginning and break this down. Xi Jinping, right? That's the president. Let's now talk about the statements side by side. The original US statement link here, here's what that looks like. Not very long, you see. And then the original Chinese statement, or statement by the Chinese president, is here. Okay, so we're gonna play a little game of guess what they're talking about by reading each side by side instead of trying to pull the question or the point and then go through these, okay? Tariffs on 200 billion of Chinese goods won't be raised on January 1st. Okay, I think we get that. Wang Yi's statement says there will be no higher tariffs. Deputy Commerce Minister Wang Shouwen said separately tariffs on 200 billion of Chinese goods won't be raised on January 1st. Those tariffs will be raised to 25% if a deal is not reached in the next 90 days. On the China side, no 90-day deadline mentioned. And then I'm assuming that this is some sort of question about when is a deadline, not mentioned. Both leaders asked their teams to speed up talks, work toward scrapping all tariffs, and reach a mutually beneficial win-win agreement. US-China will negotiate immediately on forced technology transfer, intellectual property protection, non-tariff barriers, and cyber theft. US-China will work together to reach a consensus on trade issues. Way more detail, little less detail. China will purchase very substantial, in quotes, farm, energy, industrial, and other products. China will import more US goods. We're going to bring up this key point again, so keep that in mind. China will immediately restart buying agricultural products, not mentioned. Xi will reconsider Qualcomm NXP deal, not mentioned. Bilateral visits, not mentioned. Trump, Xi will visit each other's countries at an appropriate time. China will designate fentanyl a controlled substance. China will tighten supervision on fentanyl. I believe this is like a new drug that's come out and it's super dangerous. Revised rules on the drug. US, China, and North Korea will work toward a nuclear-free Korean peninsula. China supports another meeting of US and North Korea's leaders. One China policy not mentioned. US agrees to continue respecting one China policy. It's kind of funny to read it like this, isn't it? Market access not mentioned. US, China agreed to boost market access. Chinese students in US not mentioned. Xinha story forwarded on Minister and Foreign Ministry WeChat account says US welcomes Chinese students to live and study. Okay, so let's break down this agricultural thing because we've got that statement. You can go ahead and look at that if you like. There's an official statement that was rolled out by the White House. In that document we were just looking at, the official rollout from the White House says China has agreed to purchasing agriculture product from our farmers immediately. But that really doesn't say anything, and as Peter Schiff points out, Trump got China to agree to buy an unspecified quantity of unspecified US goods over an unspecified time period and touts it as one of the largest deals ever made, yet China is not obligated to do anything different after the agreement than it did before. That's important to note. So you didn't necessarily get China to agree to anything. I think this is definitely one of the weaker deals that the Trump administration has gotten pushed through. I think some of the other things they've gotten done is way more impressive, but this is a step forward. Here's another piece from today from Bloomberg. Trump's advisors struggle to explain the deal that he cut with Zai, claiming that it's, you know, unprecedented, one of the largest deals he's ever brokered, and yet they can't really explain it, okay? But nonetheless, right after that, the S&P 500 incurs its best week ever. So he's still getting celebrated and congratulated. It rose 127 points last week. It's the most it's ever increased in a week. On Friday, November 23rd, the S&P closed at 2632. On Friday, November 30th, the S&P closed out of the month of November at 2760. This is the largest point increase in a week ever, which is impressive at the end of the month when everyone thought that it was going to stay put and we were going to see decreases. S&P 500 rose 4.8%, so 127 points or 4.8%. China's yuan also saw a nice little rally. The stock index futures rallied on the basis of this trade agreement. This Trump-Xi trade agreement. So this piece is really, really good. Talks about how the wording is vague and talks about how the United States has increased its trading barriers imposed on China for years, and even the World Trade Organization has warned against this. So the United States acted in the wrong way, and in between 2009 and 2016 introduced more protectionist measures than any other G20 country. The World Trade Organization warned on several occasions before the Trump administration took office of the increase in protectionism since 2011. Because China needs us more than we need them. They need us to buy their more than we need them to buy our debt. And interestingly enough, China is not the main holder of US bonds, not even the largest foreign buyer. The largest holders are North American institutions and investors in the majority, okay? Here's a look at that right there. So the thing I want to mention here is that China's in rough shape. They can't maintain their current growth model. They're building all these vacant cities that nobody lives in, and it's really just to hide their GDP numbers. And they've been doing this for a really long time. So they have a very aggressive monetary policy that they have to keep up, and it can't stop or slow down or dip for too long, or a monumental bubble will pop. China's foreign currency reserves fell to the lowest level in 18 months in October, a reduction of 33.9 billion in October, the worst since December of 2016, and the lowest level since April 2017. As I just mentioned, China cannot maintain its growth based on a huge debt bubble if its exports to the US fall. There is no other market that can offset its exports to North America, and its trade surplus with the United States is already over $275 billion per year, the biggest contributor to the Chinese GDP from the external sector. A drop in the growth of China's exports would mean a much larger collapse of its foreign exchange reserves, which are down 30% since the 2014 highs. Now, China's been doing some really interesting things like buying up a ton of gold. It's also a big manufacturer and mining location for gold, but it still has a big bubble that it has to keep up with, much bigger than ours in the United States. This kind of goes through that and lays out really what's led up to today and the importance on both sides of this deal, okay? And lastly, let's cover this. Big Bull calls for markets at year-end suddenly look less crazy. What that means is that there are some bulls calling for a late year or end of the year rally or cycle back up, and it looks like they might just get it with what we've got going on with the trade war and how that positively just affected the S&P 500 and some of the other things I think they got planned for the end of the year. I think they want it to end on a high. So yeah, we've got the 4.8, they rounded up to 5% rally in futures on the S&P 500 and a jump in 10-year treasury yields back above 3%. So it looks like the death cross was averted. So what are they actually looking for this year? Well, they're looking for another 7%. So to end this, how some economists or some overly optimistic market strategists would like this year to end, it would have to end at 29.42 this year. So that's another 7% from where we're at. Okay, that's all I got for you guys. Hopefully this is valuable for you. You liked it. If you did, click the like button. Go ahead and comment below if you got something you want to say. And if this is the first time to the channel, go ahead and click the subscribe and the bell notification buttons as well. And if you want to support us in some sort of way, you can by checking out the sweet merch we've got below. We got cell phone cases, we got hoodies, long sleeves, t-shirts, different designs, my modern day freedom fighters like you. So go ahead and check those out, and if you want to support us, that would be amazing. We also have some digital training courses coming out that will help with performance because peak performance is a big thing for me. How to get more done in a day, stay happier, and just have a more fulfilling life. Check that out. That will be coming very, very soon. I'll make an announcement about it. But that's all we got for today. Stay tuned, my friends. More videos coming to the channel very soon. Bye.